What if the motor you just paid $4,000 for is the exact same motor someone else bought for $2,900? Same factory, same engineering, same pistons, different stickers. For decades, one of the biggest names in boating has been hiding something. A secret partnership, a shared assembly line, and a price gap that's cost American boaters millions. Now, with the market collapsing and dealers sitting on unsold inventory, the truth is finally coming out. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the outboard industry's best-kept secret. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at that logo the same way again. In the coastal city of Komagan, Japan, nestled in the shadow of the Japanese Alps, sits a factory that most American boaters have never heard of. Inside, more than 170,000 outboard motors roll off the assembly line every year. Some are painted black, some are painted blue. Some carry the name of Japan's oldest outboard manufacturer. Others carry the name of America's most famous marine brand. This is Tohatsu Marine Corporation. And its story begins not on the water, but on the rails. In 1922, a small research institute in Tokyo began experimenting with internal combustion engines. They called it the Takata Motor Research Institute. By the 1930s, they were building rail cars for the Japanese Ministry of Railways. By the 1940s, they had consolidated into what would become Tohatsu Corporation. And by the 1950s, they were dominating Japan's motorcycle market with 22% of all sales. But motorcycles weren't their destiny. In 1956, Tohatsu built its first outboard motor, a modest 1.5 horsepower unit that would mark the beginning of Japan's oldest marine engine legacy. When financial troubles forced them out of the motorcycle business in 1964, they pivoted entirely to marine propulsion. It was a decision that would quietly reshape the global outboard industry. For the next 2 decades, Tohatsu refined their craft. They built motors for commercial fishermen who needed engines that started every time, ran in brutal conditions, and lasted for years without complaint. They earned a reputation in Asia, in Europe, in South America, everywhere except the one market that mattered most, the United States. Then came 1988, and everything changed. That year, Tohatsu signed a joint venture agreement with Brunswick Corporation. If that name doesn't ring a bell, their subsidiary will, Mercury Marine, one of the most recognized names in American boating. The deal created Tohatsu Marine Corporation, a shared manufacturing operation that would produce outboard motors for both companies. Before the partnership, Tohatsu's factory produced 40,000 to 50,000 motors annually. After the partnership, that number exploded to nearly 180,000 units. The factory expanded. New assembly lines were added, new coating facilities, new quality control systems. But here's what most American boaters never realized. Many of those motors leaving the factory weren't wearing Tohatsu cowlings. They were wearing Mercury logos. Today, every Mercury outboard motor under 30 horsepower is manufactured by Tohatsu. The blocks are the same. The fuel injection systems are the same. The water jackets, the pistons, the lower units, identical. The only meaningful difference is the color of the paint and the decal on the cowling. And it doesn't stop there. Every Nissan Marine outboard sold in the United States rebadged Tohatsu. The smaller Evinrude motors before BRP exited the market in 2020, supplied by Tohatsu. This single Japanese factory has been quietly powering multiple American brands for nearly 4 decades. So why does this matter now? Because in 2024, the marine market didn't just slow down, it collapsed. Global boat sales dropped more than 9%. Mercury's parent company saw their propulsion division revenues fall from $751 million to $578 million, a 23% decline in a single quarter. Outboard motor sales specifically fell 24%. By summer, Mercury Marine had laid off 300 workers at their Wisconsin facilities. Dealers across the country found themselves sitting on inventory they couldn't move. New boats were spending 53 days longer on the market. Consumer confidence had fallen to 85.7, well below the 100-point baseline that indicates economic optimism, and suddenly, every dollar mattered. When money gets tight, smart buyers start asking questions, and the questions they started asking in 2024 made premium brands very uncomfortable. Let's do something the manufacturers would rather we didn't. Let's put their motors next to each other and compare. Not the marketing, not the branding, but the actual hardware. Take the 20 horsepower class, a Tohatsu MFS 20E with electronic fuel injection and a 4-stroke engine sells for approximately $3,200. A Mercury 20 horsepower 4-stroke with the same electronic fuel injection, the same displacement, the same fundamental engineering sells for $4,000 or more. That's an $800 difference. For the same motor. Not a similar motor. The same motor. Forum posts from mechanics and boat owners across the country tell the same story. One user on a popular duck hunting forum wrote that when he researched his Mercury purchase, he discovered that Tohatsu builds all of Mercury's small outboards. The manuals and parts lists, he said, were identical except for the name. Another owner reported that his Tohatsu mechanic told him smaller Mercurys and Hondas share a lot of parts with Tohatsu motors. The evidence isn't hidden, it's just not advertised. But the price gap is only half the story. The warranty gap is where things get truly uncomfortable. Tohatsu offers a 5-year factory warranty on their outboard motors. Standard. No upsell required. Mercury, on those same motors built in the same factory, offers 3 years. Think about that for a moment. The company that actually manufactures the engine, that designed it, tested it, and assembled it, has more confidence in the product than the company that simply rebrands it. When you're spending thousands of dollars on marine propulsion, warranty length isn't a minor detail. It's a signal. It tells you how much the manufacturer believes in what they're selling. And right now, that signal is telling a story the premium brands would rather you didn't hear. Now, skeptics might argue that there must be a catch. Tohatsu must be cutting corners somewhere. Cheaper materials, lower quality control, inferior customer service. If they were really offering the same product for less, wouldn't everyone know about it? Here's where the data gets interesting. Every year, the National Marine Manufacturers Association conducts customer satisfaction surveys across the industry. They send out more than 275,000 surveys annually, measuring everything from product quality to dealer service to overall ownership experience. Companies that achieve 90% satisfaction or higher receive the Customer Satisfaction Index Award. Tohatsu America has won that award 7 consecutive years. 7 years of independently verified customer satisfaction, exceeding the industry threshold every single time. Their vice president, Kuniharu Maki, said in a press release that exceeding the CSI threshold means Tohatsu is focused on the right things, and their customers notice. Their national sales manager, Kurt Gardner, put it more simply. They offer a premium product at an affordable price. The owner's testimonials back this up. On fishing forums and boating communities across the internet, the feedback is remarkably consistent. Users describe Tohatsu motors as bulletproof. One owner reported running a 2005 2-stroke 40 horsepower for nearly 2 decades without major issues. Another said he'd had his fuel-injected 4-stroke for 6 years with 0 problems. The only repair was a stuck starter brush that cost $8 at AutoZone. So we have a motor built in the same factory as Mercury, with identical engineering, a longer warranty, higher customer satisfaction ratings, and a price tag that's hundreds to thousands of dollars lower. The question isn't whether Tohatsu makes a good motor. The question is, what exactly are you paying for when you buy the premium brand? The answer isn't engineering, it isn't quality, it isn't reliable. The answer is a logo. For decades, the outboard motor industry operated on a simple principle. Customers didn't ask questions, and manufacturers didn't volunteer answers. Brand loyalty ran deep. Fathers passed down their preferences to sons. Mercury families stayed Mercury families. Yamaha owners swore by Yamaha. The idea of buying an unfamiliar Japanese brand, even if it was technically superior, felt like a risk most American boaters weren't willing to take. But the internet changed everything. Boating forums, YouTube reviews, Facebook groups, Reddit threads. Suddenly, the information that dealers used to control became available to anyone with a smartphone and 10 minutes to spare. Mechanics started posting teardown videos showing identical components under different cowlings. Owners shared side-by-side comparisons of warranty documents. Price-tracking websites made it impossible to hide regional markups. The informed buyer revolution didn't happen overnight. It built slowly, one forum post at a time, one YouTube comment at a time. But by 2024, the dam had broken. One user on a popular skiff fishing forum captured the shift perfectly. He had gone to his local dealer to buy a Mercury 9.9 horsepower motor. The dealer told him the unit listed online had sold the previous week. They could order another one, but the cost was now hundreds more. The buyer paused. He went home and researched alternatives. He discovered Tohatsu offered the same motor with a longer warranty at a lower price. Why? He asked. Would he ever go back? That question is now echoing through marinas and dealerships across the country. And the premium brands are struggling to answer it. Mercury Marine's 2024 wasn't just a bad year. It was a reckoning. Their parent company, Brunswick Corporation, reported that the propulsion division dropped 23% in the first quarter alone. Outboard motor revenue fell to $450 million, down 24% from the previous year. Stern drive motors collapsed even harder, dropping 29%. By June, the layoffs began. 300 workers at Mercury's Wisconsin facilities received notices. The company cited declining demand, but insiders knew the truth was more complicated. Demand hadn't disappeared. It had shifted. Buyers were still buying motors. They just weren't buying Mercury motors at Mercury prices. The dealers felt it first. For years, marine retailers had made their margins on brand prestige. A customer walks in wanting a motor. The dealer steers them toward the premium option. The premium option carries a higher markup. Everyone wins, except the customer who didn't know they had a choice. Now, customers know, and dealers are caught in the middle. Mercury dealers are contractually tied to Mercury pricing. They can't discount below certain thresholds without risking their franchise agreements, but independent dealers can stock multiple brands. Online retailers like Defender Marine and online outboards can ship directly to consumers, bypassing the traditional dealer network entirely. Prices that once required negotiation are now posted publicly, undercutting local showrooms by $300 to $500. One industry executive told Trade Only Today that dealers are nervous about what happened in 2008. Back then, the financial crisis left retailers holding inventory they couldn't move. Boats sat on lots for years. Dealerships closed. The recovery took nearly a decade. The fear now is that 2024 might be the beginning of something similar, not because of a financial crisis, but because of a fundamental shift in how consumers make purchasing decisions. The marine industry sold roughly 230,000 new powerboats in 2024, down 9 to 12% from the previous year. Pontoon sales dropped nearly 11%. Jet boats fell more than 14%. Wake sport boats declined almost 10%. The only segment showing growth was yachts, the one category where price sensitivity barely exists. For everyone else, every dollar matters. And when every dollar matters, brand loyalty becomes a luxury fewer buyers can afford. Part 4. The analysis. To understand what's happening in the outboard market, you have to understand a business model that extends far beyond marine engines. It's called original equipment manufacturing, OEM for short. And once you see it, you'll recognize it everywhere. Walk into any Costco and pick up a bottle of Kirkland Signature vodka. Industry insiders have long noted its similarity to premium brands produced in the same French distilleries. Check the ingredients on generic medications at your pharmacy. chemically identical to the name brands sitting on the shelf above them, sometimes manufactured in the same facilities. Look at store brand electronics, budget appliances, off-label automotive parts. The modern economy runs on OEM relationships that most consumers never see. The marine industry is no different. Tohatsu doesn't just build motors for Mercury. Their larger outboards, 60 horsepower and above, are rebadged Hondas. Same motor, different cowling, and Honda engines are considered some of the most reliable in the industry. The arrangement works because it benefits everyone in the supply chain. Factories need volume to stay profitable. OEM deals guarantee purchase orders. Multiple brands selling the same underlying product capture different market segments at different price points. One engineering investment generates multiple revenue streams. But here's where the math starts to break down for consumers. When you buy a Tohatsu 25 horsepower motor for $3,900, you're paying for the engineering, the manufacturing, the quality control, the 5-year warranty, and a modest profit margin. When you buy the Mercury equivalent for $4,600 or more, you're paying for all of that, plus the Mercury brand tax. That $700 premium doesn't buy you better components. It doesn't buy you superior reliability. It buys you brand recognition, access to a larger dealer network, and the psychological comfort of a familiar name. The industry term for this is brand premium. And in outboard motors, it runs between 25% and 30% of the purchase price. On a 20 horsepower motor, that's $800. On a 50 horsepower motor, it can exceed $2,000. Over the typical 15-year lifespan of an outboard engine, you're paying $50 to $150 annually for the privilege of a different logo. For decades, that premium was invisible. Buyers didn't know they were paying it. They assumed higher prices meant higher quality. The manufacturers reinforced this assumption through marketing, through dealer relationships, through the simple repetition of brand messaging at every boat show and fishing tournament and marina storefront. But information asymmetry only works when information stays asymmetric. The moment buyers realize they have options, the moment they discover the motors are identical, the premium becomes impossible to justify. The question now facing the industry is whether this represents a temporary correction or a permanent shift in consumer behavior. The evidence for permanent change is compelling. Buyers under 40 now represent the majority of new boat purchasers in the United States, a demographic that grew up researching every major purchase online. They're less brand loyal than their parents. They're more comfortable comparing specifications across manufacturers. They've been trained by Amazon and Google to find the best price, and they don't feel sentimental attachment to legacy names. Economic pressure accelerates the trend. When interest rates rise and consumer confidence falls, value-conscious decisions become survival strategies. The buyer who might have spent extra for Mercury in 2019 can't afford that luxury in 2024. But the premium brands have survived downturns before. Dealer relationships still matter for service and warranty work. Resale values remain higher for established names. And brand loyalty, while weakening, hasn't disappeared entirely. The outboard market is projected to reach nearly $12 billion by 2030, growing at just over 5% annually. The pie is getting bigger. But who gets the largest slice is changing, and changing fast. Part 5. The future. While Mercury and Yamaha race to build bigger and more powerful gasoline engines, 400 horsepower, 500 horsepower, the arms race pushing ever upward, Tohatsu is looking in a different direction entirely. In February 2024, at the Miami International Boat Show, Tohatsu unveiled something unexpected. A prototype 4-kilowatt electric outboard motor. It wasn't flashy. It didn't dominate the headlines. But it signaled a strategic pivot that industry observers are only now beginning to understand. The electric motor followed Tohatsu's partnership with Ilmor Marine, a company with deep roots in Formula One and IndyCar engineering. Together, they developed the Alaris Electric Propulsion Series. The 6-kilowatt model launched in early 2025, with the smaller 4-kilowatt version planned for release across the United States, Canada, and European markets. Tohatsu's president, Isami Hyuga, framed the move in simple terms. "The company is committed to a sustainable product lineup," he said. "They're eager to include electric outboards. The significance isn't the technology itself. Electric propulsion has been developing across the marine industry for years. The significance is who's building it. A century-old Japanese company, already producing the most affordable, reliable gasoline outboards on the market, is now positioning itself to offer the most accessible electric options as well. They're not chasing the high-horsepower luxury segment. They're targeting the practical boater, the cost-conscious buyer, the commercial operator who needs dependable power without premium pricing. It's the same strategy that made them dominant in small gasoline motors, applied to the propulsion technology of the future." So what does all of this mean for someone watching this video, wondering what motor to buy for their skiff, or their pontoon, or their aluminum fishing boat? The playbook is straightforward. Compare specifications, not brand names. If two motors have the same displacement, the same fuel injection system, the same stroke configuration, they might be the same motor wearing different clothes. Check the warranty length. A longer warranty typically signals manufacturer confidence in their own product. Research the supply chain. A simple internet search can reveal who actually builds the motor you're considering. Consider dealer access, but weigh it against reliability. Local service matters if your motor breaks down frequently. It matters less if your motor runs for 15 years without major issues. And calculate the true cost of ownership, not just purchase price, but fuel efficiency, maintenance requirements, and eventual resale value. The numbers tell a clear story. A mid-range Tohatsu costs approximately $2,900. A comparable motor from premium competitors runs $3,600 to $4,200. Over a 15-year ownership period, that's $700 to $1,300 that stays in your pocket. Invested wisely, that's a new fish finder, a trolling motor upgrade, a weekend trip with your family. But this story isn't really about saving money on outboard motors. It's about something larger. For decades, entire industries have operated on the assumption that consumers wouldn't ask questions, that brand recognition would override rational analysis, that loyalty, once established, would persist across generations regardless of value propositions. The marine industry built its pricing structures on that assumption. So did automotive. So did electronics. So did countless other sectors where OEM relationships hide behind premium logos. The internet didn't just give consumers access to information, it gave them permission to question what they'd always accepted. And once that questioning begins, it doesn't stop. Tohatsu didn't crash the outboard market through aggressive pricing wars or revolutionary technology. They crashed it simply by existing, by proving that a 100-year-old company can build world-class motors, back them with industry-leading warranties, and still sell them for less than the competition charges for the same product. The motors sitting in showrooms across America haven't changed. The factories producing them haven't changed. The engineering inside them hasn't changed. What's changed is that now, finally,